headquarters for the 41st Precinct on Simpson Street in the South Bronx, Apache. Police officials have tried to discourage the name, but its use persists among the men because it expresses that they are surrounded by violence. The 41st is one of the most violent precincts in the city. Last year, nearly 11,000 serious crimes were reported here, one for every 15 residents. 4,000 people were assaulted, robbed, raped, or murdered. A few minutes past 7 on the evening of Saturday, February 3rd, this young man came into the station house with a stab wound in the shoulder.
He just walked up to you and stabbed you after you asked him for a dime?
Yeah, after he asked me for the dime.
He was male Hispanic?
Huh?
He was Hispanic?
Spanish.
Yeah. About how old was he?
I don't know.
Approximately. In his
18,
teens?
19, yeah.
How tall was he?
I don't know his height. I don't know much about that.
Okay, Richard. Have a seat. We have an ambulance on the way. They'll take you down to the hospital and get you patched up. Detectives will notify you, and you can go look through the, look at the pictures, and if you can recognize them, we'll go out and make the arrest.
He had been asked for a dime and stabbed. It was the start of another Saturday night at Fort Apache.
Don't move. Don't move. Get your hands up. All of you, get against the wall.
3 kinds of people use the streets of the South Bronx after dark: policemen, criminals, and potential victims.
Don't move again. Lean against it. Put your head against it.
Last year, 2,600 robberies were reported in the 41st Precinct. Most of them were street crimes or muggings. The plainclothes policemen in this scene are members of the precinct's anti-crime unit.
Come up.
None of the scenes in this program were staged.
Drop the bag. Drop it.
Anti-crime officers have 2 jobs: preventing street crime and interrupting it when it occurs.
Fallis and Morelli. Say it again.
Their night's work begins with a meeting in the station house. Sergeant Bill Taylor is a co-supervisor of the unit.
You'll have George, Henry, Ida, and John. Now, you know Ida is the place where most of the robberies have been occurring, so get lucky. I want you to have your service revolver. If you've got 2 of them, carry them. Be conscious of the fact that we're dealing with guys that got sophisticated firepower. And you're carrying a gun, except for minor refinements, were used against the Indians back in the 1800s. The least you should do is to be able to have another gun handy, fully loaded, so that you don't have to get involved with the trying to stick that very large bullet in that very little hole. I don't know why, but every time you're scared and you have to load under pressure, the cylinder gets small and the bullets get big. Okay, let's crank it up and get moving. Everybody know what they're doing now except me?
Anti-crime officers dress to blend into the neighborhood they are patrolling. Their work is dangerous. They do it mainly because they are young men looking forward to advancement. Since they were organized 2 years ago, anti-crime units throughout the city have been making about 15% of all arrests, although they comprise less than 5% of the patrol force. At the hour when most people have retreated behind locked doors, their work begins.
There's a man with a rifle. Rise Avenue and 174. Rise and 174.
What's your name, sir? Yeah. Right. Are they in the hallway now? Are they in the hallway now? Right. All right, we'll have a car over there as soon as I can. Right?
Calls for help coming through the switchboard are supplemented by what the police call walk-in trade. the stream of victims who come in from the street. This young woman has just been robbed of $16 at knife point.
When did it happen?
5 minutes ago. I came up here. I'm coming up here to tell you a robbery. The guy's up in the corner, he took my money, right? Ripped my shirt and threaded, take advantage of me.
The complaint comes at a moment when all the radio cars in the precinct are busy. Sergeant Taylor and 2 other members of the anti-crime unit accompany the victim on a search for the robbery suspect.
5 anti-crime, your message, case. 4-5 anti-crime, the central case. Okay.
I think all the men in this unit are conscious of the fact that we can be hurt. We've had, in our unit, 2 men shot in the past year. We've had various physical injuries from blows, from sticks, knife cuttings. We could be hurt if we let our guard down for 1 second. I stress safety all the time, what to do if we're under fire. And the possibility is that in the future, no matter how careful we are, another one of us may be very badly hurt. We only hope that we're sharp enough and there in time so that it's not fatal.
The suspect is located a few blocks from the station house.
We're always conscious of the fact that when we do arrest a person who lives here, we have to deal with the people who are in the immediate vicinity and see this. And they are usually, at first instance, prone to take the side of the person we arrest. Usually, when it's explained what has happened and what the person did, we get their full support. But we can't dally in the street because of the possibility of this cautiousness on the people's part or the suspicion causing violence or aggressive action against us. So we get out of the area just as quick as possible.
What did he do? What did he do?
I'll tell you in the station house.
Huh? No, I don't know. What does he do with the guy? You handcuffed.
He's under arrest.
No, but what's he do?
If it's your business, come into the station house. Now it's not your business. Get him in there quick, all right?
When the police officer reasonably suspects that he is in danger of physical injury, he may frisk for a deadly weapon or any instrument, article, or substance readily capable of causing serious physical injury.
A report on serious crime in the 41st Precinct for 1972 showed that the number of violent crimes, homicides and robberies, were nearly identical to the previous year. But non-violent crimes, burglaries, larcenies, and auto thefts, had declined as much as 30%. Precinct commanders give much of the credit for this improvement to the 4-1's uniform patrol force. They have a reputation for making what police call quality arrests, arrests that result in convictions. Their performance is significant because, for obvious reasons, most policemen do not consider the 41st Precinct a choice assignment. Their commander is Deputy Inspector Matthew Neary.
Well, I think the average man today views it as something that he's going to have to do during his time within the department. The policy of the department today is to rotate men among high-activity precincts before they will be able to go into specialized assignments like the detective division or some of the administrative assignments within the department. So to some extent they view it as something they have to get over, get through with. I think most of them accept it as a job that has to be done. Someone has to work in a high-activity precinct. Possibly some of the men resent the fact that they have to work under these conditions, but I think most of them accept it rather well, considering the conditions. It is a risky place to work. We've had men killed in the performance of duty and several men seriously injured. One indication of the degree of risk is the number of arrests we make and the number of incidents that are reported involving the use of firearms and other dangerous weapons.
Now, you're under arrest for possession of a deadly weapon, a blackjack. You have a right to remain silent and refuse to answer questions. Do you understand? Anything you say may be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand? I didn't hear you, sir.
Yes, okay.
You have the right to consult an attorney before speaking to the police, and to have an attorney present during any questions now or in the future. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you without cost. If you do not have an attorney available, you have the right to remain silent until you've had an opportunity to consult with one. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now that I have advised you of your rights, are you willing to answer all the questions without an attorney present?
I want to consult the attorney.
You want to consult an attorney?
Okay.
All right. We'll let you contact him. You have your own attorney, sir?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Illegal weapons are one of the great plagues of the South Bronx. The neighborhood is an arsenal of pistols, shotguns, rifles, and knives. Their easy accessibility often turns a family argument into a crime. 101 homicides were reported in the 41st last year. More often than not, victim and assailant were known to each other. On the street, robbery and assault go hand in hand. One of the jobs of anti-crime officers is disarming people who are carrying illegal weapons. Spotting a concealed weapon is one of the tricks of their trade.
A police officer carries his gun more than 8 hours a day. It becomes part of him. He knows it's there, yet he's not conscious of it. Most people who acquire guns don't carry them all the time. They're furtive. It's something that doesn't really belong with them, and they know it, so they test it with their elbows. They hitch it up. They move it. They make certain movements that are characteristic. Let's take them. Over here. Drop it here. You go that way. I'm going to cut around and come up from behind, all right? You take them from the side. Now have your gun out. You got it?
Yes.
Stay there. Good. Wait a minute. Check them.
You put the cuffs on the place. My friend, you want to do this?
I don't know what happened. What happened? What happened?
What are you doing with the gun?
Nothing, no. You had wrong idea.
Oh, yeah.
Man. You had wrong idea with it, man. I don't know what happened. Yeah, that's fine.
It's loaded. You got 4 live slugs and a gun. The people who do carry weapons in this neighborhood, I would say 40%, carry them out of fear. They're afraid of being hurt, so they carry something for protection. You'll find people here walking with a stick in their hand. It's something that you wouldn't expect to see in a different area of the city. A fellow may be working or something. He has to come home late at night. He may be able to buy a gun and carry it. And he may very well be a person in all other aspects, a legal citizen. But he will have this illegal gun. And under stress, because he is frightened, may very well shoot somebody who doesn't deserve to be shot, which has happened many times. He could be just frightened that someone comes too close to him. Out comes the gun and bang. So we arrest anyone with an illegal gun. They just shouldn't have them. Okay, inside. Our primary assignment is seeking out crimes of violence, assaults, robberies, burglaries, muggings, rapes. The things that maybe a uniformed man, just by the fact that he's in a uniform, would deter. This is good. We want a deterrent force, and we want to give the impression of omnipresence, but they'll go on sick cases. They'll issue summonses for traffic violations. Actually, what we're doing, we're submerged as far as that's concerned, and we don't react unless we feel that there is a crime being committed or is about to be committed.
Why don't you open the door? You open the door. Get up against the wall. Turn around.
Car's running. Watch somebody takes it.
Get behind him.
Why?
We'll call for an ambulance, all right? Okay. Pull him over, Mike. Negative, it's inside. We had two males carry him over their shoulders into the hallway. And we've stopped him. This guy's unconscious, Kate. Will you arrest the ambulance? Negative, in the hallway of that address, Kate. No, él entró a la guardia.
You ever case charge?
Yo lo vi, sí, pero ahorita. Speak English? Watch him, Mike. He might come up swinging. Watch him. Take it, just lay down there, amigo. Take it easy. Watch his feet. Watch his feet.
My lady!
Take it easy.
Hey, my baby!
As long as he swings, let him.
Saturday, February 3rd, was an average day in the 41st precinct.
Take it easy, amigo.
32 serious crimes were reported. Among them were 10 burglaries, a rape, 7 robberies, and 5 assaults. Lincoln Hospital is the chief provider of medical care in the South Bronx. Its emergency room, which serves the 41st and several neighboring precincts, is the 4th busiest in the country. According to the medical staff, the workload on the night of February 3rd was not unusual, but by 10 p.m., the steady stream of casualties from the streets of the South Bronx was beginning to overload the cramped facilities. This man was robbed of a shopping bag in a restaurant. When he protested, he was stabbed in the chest.
Simpson?
This man was stopped on the street, robbed, and shot in the head. Later, he was transferred to another hospital for neurosurgery. An unidentified person in a passing car fired a shot at this man and wounded him in the leg.
What's your apartment number?
This man is suffering from a gunshot wound. And so is this one. This patient has a stab wound chest.
All you're going to have is this tube put into your chest to suck out the blood that's due to the nick in your lung, okay? Once the blood is sucked out, the lung is fully expanded. We're going to observe you for a couple of days. By the second or third day, we'll pull the tube out, repeat the x-rays, check that your lungs expanded, and then discharge you. All right? Okay, nothing to worry.
Llamé al teléfono que tú me diste. Tu mamá viene ahora. Y tu papá está. No, yo llamo a mi mamá.
The policemen who spend their working days and nights in the 41st precinct look at the violence of the South Bronx with a mixture of bafflement and...
The type of crime that you have today of muggers going into a hallway following a little old lady home with a package of groceries, the pocketbook taken and pushed to the ground and stomped, thrown the flight of stairs for a couple of dollars that she has from a welfare check. You've never had this type of crime before.
You didn't have a meal.
They believe the first step in reducing crime must be controlling drugs.
I personally feel that most of your violent crime does come from narcotics. A junkie, he wouldn't hesitate to do anything to get money, whether it be a robbery or burglary. Resist. It's a question of his getting caught or not getting caught. Purse snatches, holdups, burglaries, robberies, car thefts. A lot of this stems from narcotics.
There is an awareness that crime and poverty are related, but the relation is not clear.
Apparently this is true throughout the country. Wherever there is a so-called poverty area or a ghetto area, it seems to be a high crime area. Possibly the density of the population, everybody living close to, you know, upon each other. It's hard to say.
The police believe that they are doing their job, but that the rest of the criminal justice system, the courts and prisons, has failed.
For a cop to constantly go out there and make good legal arrests and consistently be beaten back to the precinct by the man he locked up, only due to the fact that they've cut this man loose, release him in his own recognizance and whatnot, and the cop will finish his paperwork at court and get back to the precinct, and the guy beat him back. He's standing on the corner.
People going around right now killing, not only killing police officers, they'll walk in and wipe out a whole store, and they'll tell you, I have nothing to lose. I'll do 7 years for a homicide. They don't care. The life to these people today is a drop in the bucket. They much rather take your life for a lousy $30 because they know all they're going to do is a few years in prison, and they're out. There is no more fear.
To understand the South Bronx at night, it is necessary to look at it in the light of day. 400,000 people live there. A third black, 2/3 Puerto Rican. The heaviest concentration of poor people in the country. 4 out of 10 are on welfare. 3 out of 10 unemployed. 20,000 drug addicts roam the streets. 3 apartments out of 4 are substandard or deteriorating. As to fear, probably that is the chief commodity of the South Bronx. Fear of poverty, fear of crime, fear of the police. In a part of the population, fear has given way to anger, and in some, anger has triggered violent crime. The presence of a police force keeps the South Bronx on this side of chaos. But the people of this community have lost the safety of their streets and homes. Considering the condition of their lives, something more than force will be needed if they are to win it back. This is Norman Rose for New York Illustrated.